What's the matter?
It's midnight.
When you think Disney, odds are one of three images pops into your mind: Mickey Mouse, the iconic castle in Disney World, and Cinderella. It's been more than 65 years since her feature film debut, but the servant-turned-princess still has a huge influence over Disney Studios to this day. I'm Johnny with Channel Frederator, and today we're examining the history behind this all-important Disney film, which largely turned the then-failing studio into a Cinderella story itself. Are you a diehard fan? Just wondering if it's worth a watch? We've got something for everyone as we count down the 107 facts you should know about Disney's Cinderella. Let's get started. Number 1. Disney's Cinderella is arguably one of the most popular classic films, but the Cinderella story stretches way beyond Disney's rich history. There are anywhere between 345 to 1,500 different versions of the Cinderella tale from literally all over the world. Number 2. The earliest Cinderella was the Egyptian tale of Rhodopis, written in BC times by Herodotus and adapted by Greek historian Strabo in the 1st century AD. In this version of the story, an Egyptian slave winds up marrying the king after a falcon steals her red slipper and drops it in his lap, leaving him in pursuit of the owner. Number 3. In a valiant second place is the story of Yi Zhan, written in China around 850. Instead of mice, Yi Zhan was friends with a fish, and then the stepmother killed the fish. Not cool, stepmom. Number 4. Disney's version bears the most in common with Charles Perrault's French variant of the fairy tale, Cendrillon, written in 1697. Perrault's innovations to the tale include the fairy godmother and pumpkin carriage, which would become so iconic in the film. Number 5. The term Cinderella is derived from the French word Cendrillon, which translates to Little Ash Girl. Perrault's stepsisters gave Cendrillon her name because she got her me time amidst the soot of the fireplace. Number 6. After Perrault, not all popular adaptations of the story included the godmother and the carriage. The infamously brilliant and dark brothers Grimm contributed a version in 1812 where Aschenputtel, or Ashfool, cries so much on her mother's grave that a magical tree grows there and helps dress her for the ball. It's like that tree in Pocahontas had a fashion sense or something. Number 7. The Grimm brothers variant took Cinderella to a much darker place, as in the stepsisters actually sever their feet in an attempt to fit into the glass slipper, and eventually have their eyes plucked out by pigeons at Cinderella's wedding. Number 8. Walt Disney's first portrayal of Cinderella was as a 1920s flapper girl. The short was the final film in Disney's first series of cartoons made for the Kansas City-based studio Laugh-O-Grams, which Disney himself directed and helped animate. It even predates Steamboat Willie. Number 9. The 1950 feature film wasn't the only time Disney revisited the material. In 1933, the now Hollywood-based Disney announced his plans to make Cinderella into a silly symphony. Disney wanted the version to exploit every possible opportunity for comedy, provided it will not disturb the main thread of the story. So literally, everyone employed at the studio was invited to contribute gags. Number 10. The silly symphony was abandoned for unspecified reasons, but most people have an inkling that it was because Disney became smitten with the idea of making his first feature. Many of the abandoned silly symphony ideas made their merry way to Snow White. Number 11. Years later, Walt Disney decided to make an animated feature starring Cinderella. It was the biggest risk of his career. Had Cinderella been a flop, it would have been the studio's last film. Number 12. Disney Studios was struggling in the post-World War II era. After films like Pinocchio, Bambi, and Dumbo performed poorly at the box office, the studio was left millions in debt. And that's 1940s millions, mind you. Number 13. The 1940s had been characterized by package features, films that contained multiple segments and were really only strung together by a simple idea. Disney's ability to make pictures was vastly hindered due to financial constraints and the fact that most of his staff was fighting overseas. At least we got the Three Caballeros out of it though, right? Or am I the only one that loves the Three Caballeros? Number 14. Cinderella was the first animated feature released after this slump. Because the studio's budget was still tight, Disney had to be strict about keeping the film on a tight schedule and budget. Scrapping entire months of work like they'd done with Snow White and Pinocchio would not fly. Number 15. Cinderella was chosen for its similarity to Snow White, a time-tested, well-loved fairy tale with a pretty lady audiences would sympathize with. Number 16. According to Eileen Woods, the voice of the titular character, Cinderella is Disney's favorite heroine from all of his films. Woods believes it's because the story's rags to riches nature. Basically, Cinderella's success made the Disney studio a Cinderella story itself. Number 17. Cinderella took 6 years to complete. Consider that it was released in 1950 and that World War II ended in 1945, and you'll see Walt Disney was really not to be messed with. Number 18. As a way to cut costs and to ensure the film would work as a whole, Disney had the entire film shot in live action first. The live action footage was used merely as a guide. The gestures, expressions, and movements helped the animators get off the ground quicker, so to speak. It also helped characters stay consistent throughout the film, since any given character may pass through several animators. Number 19. The animators were particularly worried about Cinderella and her evil stepmother. They felt that the audience didn't believe that they were real people. The whole film would wither like so many midnight pumpkins. The live-action shots helped them move the two in a convincingly realistic fashion, especially when you contrast them with the more obviously cartoonish stepsisters. Number 20. Helene Stanley provided the reference for how Cinderella would move and dance. Animators would then sketch Stanley as she went through scenes. She was later hired to be the model for Sleeping Beauty's Aurora and 101 Dalmatians' Anita, which may explain why those characters have eerily similar physiques. Number 21. Stills from the live-action footage were even used early in the storyboarding phase, so animators could get a sense of scale, spatiality, and layout. And yes, there was actually some guy rotating Cinderella and the prince on a platform while they danced. Number 22. Animation didn't start until the live-action version was wrapped, backgrounds were painted and set, and dialogue, sound effects, and music was recorded. Number 23. Creating a motion picture-length animation cartoon in pre-digital days was easier said than done. Approximately 300 highly skilled artists worked steadily for 5 to 6 years to make Cinderella come to life. To put some perspective on this, the drawings would have taken a solitary artist 42 years of working around the clock. Number 24. At the beginning of any feature, Disney would assign his animators the characters he thought would best fit their style, and surprise legendary animator Frank Thomas by giving him Lady Tremaine, Cinderella's evil stepmother. Thomas was confused by this decision as he was previously assigned the important but more charming likes of Bambi, Pinocchio, and the Seven Dwarfs, but he'd go on to do the Queen of Hearts and Captain Hook. You could say Tremaine was his gateway villain. Number 25. Each animator had a dialogue chart to help their drawing sync with the voice actors. The chart gave a frame-by-frame breakdown of each and every word as well as natural pauses between words and breaths. For example, the simple word hello took about 8 frames, meaning the animator had to draw the word's movement over 8 different drawings. Number 26. After the test drawings were done, they were sent to be oh so carefully traced onto sheets of celluloid, adorably nicknamed eels by the studio. The eels were then sent to be painted. The all-female painting team would apply color on the reverse side of the drawing. Number 27. Disney's paint was all ground and mixed in-house in a mystical paint laboratory. Over 1,000 different colors were typically used in a single production, and as if that wasn't impressive enough, the paints were all made with special formulas. We assumed there was a plankton-like secret formula relationship happening here between Disney and Warner Brothers. Number 28. Between backgrounds and painting the eels, Disney used 800 gallons or nearly 5 tons of paint to complete the film. That's so much paint! Number 29. When the eels were completed, they were sent to the camera department to be photographed on top of the corresponding background. The stop-motion Technicolor camera Disney used could only record 1 frame at a time, so the operator had to change drawings for every shot.
Hey everyone, taking a quick break to let you know about a new show that we're excited about. It's called Scienced, and we're going to be taking a look at some of our favorite cartoons through a scientific lens.
A yellow sea creature that looks like a dish sponge has a pet snail that lives in a pineapple that never rots. His best friend is a dim-witted pink starfish who somehow has a driver's license. And they all live in a city under the sea 3,350 miles northeast of Australia called Bikini Bottom. So exactly why does Bikini Bottom defy the natural world? Let's nerd out a little bit.
So this coming Tuesday on Channel Frederator, we're going to be talking about the science of SpongeBob. If that's something that sounds like it's up your alley, you should totally check it out and let us know what you think. And with that, back to your show.
Number 30. As many as 1 million drawings, including initial sketches, were made before the picture was finally approved. And to give you a glimpse into how devoted these photographers were, a film like Cinderella took a minimum of 125,000 individual stills. Number 31. After photography, the scenes were finally strung together and synchronized with a re-recorded soundtrack that included music, dialogue, and sound effects. And then, all that was sent to a color lab for one final processing. So, you know, super easy. Number 32. The role of Cinderella was quite coveted. 309 women auditioned for the part. Number 33. In the end, the woman who snagged the role didn't even audition for it. Eileen Woods was a host of the Eileen Woods Show on ABC Radio when she was just 14. One of her guests was future Cinderella songwriters Mac David and Jerry Livingston, who later asked Woods to record demos of Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, So This Is Love, and A Dream Is a Wish Your Heart Makes as a favor. After hearing these demos, Disney immediately asked Woods if she would like to be Cinderella. Number 34. Woods contributed more to the character than just her voice. Animation director Mark Davis sketched her as she recorded her lines and dialogue and incorporated many of her mannerisms and gestures into the final film. Number 35. After a lot of research and experimentation with coloring, Disney made the official call that Cinderella should be blonde. The studio believed the blonde test more captivatingly depicted the symbol of the lovelorn maiden. And as a blonde myself, I wholeheartedly agree with this decision. Bravo, Disney! Number 36. This doesn't mean there haven't been some conspicuous changes to her hair color over the years. In the original film, Cinderella's hair is strawberry blonde, but recent promotional materials show her as a straight-up yellow blonde. Her ball gown has changed too, from a silvery bluish color to a more eye-popping blue. Number 37. In the Perrault story, Cinderella's father is still alive but offers zero help to the situation. Cinderella worries she would be scolded if she confided in him about her stepmother's abuse. Number 38. Until very, very recently, Cinderella was the oldest Disney princess at a whopping curmudgeonly old 19. She was then tied with Tiana and then surpassed by Elsa, who's 21. Friggin' Elsa. Number 39. Cinderella is the first Disney princess who wasn't born into royalty, and it certainly took Disney long enough to have future princesses follow her example. The other non-royals are Belle in 1991's Beauty and the Beast, Mulan in 1998, and Tiana in 2009's Princess and the Frog. Number 40. Cinderella did not have talking animal friends in Cendrillon. Their inclusion may have been inspired by the Grimm's version of the story, where she basically had an army of birds to do her bidding. Number 41. The mice weren't always Cinderella's chums of choice. In an earlier draft, she had a pet turtle named Clarissa. I would like to meet that turtle, please, and perhaps see if it explains it all. Number 42. Multi-talented sound effects artist Jimmy MacDonald was the voice of Jack, Gus, and Bruno. MacDonald was also known for his animal noises, providing the voices of the Dormouse in Alice in Wonderland, and the tick-tock of the clock-eating crocodile in Peter Pan. He also did the voice of Chip and even supplanted Disney as the voice of Mickey Mouse. Number 43. Cinderella's outfits for her mice are similar to the Seven Dwarfs' sense of fashion, both sporting similar hats and shoes. Gus even had the same color palette as Bashful. Number 44. 3 of the mice that helped sew Cinderella's dress during the work song were matching colors, like Aurora's 3 fairy godmothers, who also helped make her dress, would, and Sleeping Beauty several years later. Coincidence? Yeah, probably. It's probably a coincidence. Number 45. Cinderella was the first Disney princess to share a duet with her love interest. Aurora and her prince would follow suit in Once Upon a Dream, and then we skip several decades until the hit A Whole New World. Number 46. Prince Charming was performed by 2 actors. Mike Douglas, from the appropriately named The Mike Douglas Show, sang Prince Charming's musical numbers. William Phipps provided the prince's speaking voice. Both performed uncredited. Disney wanted Douglas for both, but his Chicago accent was too thick. Number 47. In the 1922 Cinderella short Disney made for Laugh-O-Rama, Cinderella had a pet cat that chauffeured her to the ball. Once at the ball, Cinderella's cat ended up in an equally romantic tryst with the prince's dog. Oh my. Number 48. Prince Charming is a made-up name never actually mentioned in the film. However, over the years, the phrase has basically become canon. Number 49. In one of the many deleted scenes, the prince was seen hunting a deer, only to reveal that the two were actually just pals playing a game. Maybe they cut it because they worried it would still induce traumatic shock post-Bambi. Number 50. In Perrault's story, the prince's ball lasts 2 nights because 2 is more fun than 1, and Cinderella loses her shoe on the 2nd night. Number 51. When the studio's artists were struggling to land the perfect look for the fairy godmother, art director Kendall O'Connor, who had just finished The Pumpkin Carriage, offered to take a shot at it. He modeled the fairy godmother after how he imagined his wife, Mary Alice O'Connor, would look when she grew older. Number 52. And that's not even the most heartwarming part of the story. Mary Alice ended up becoming something of a real-life fairy godmother. In fact, her dedicated charity work and philanthropic activities caused her to become widely known as the fairy godmother of Burbank. Number 53. If you thought the fairy godmother's voice sounded familiar, you were right. Vernon Felton was also Dumbo's mom, the Queen of Hearts in Alice in Wonderland, Aunt Sarah from The Lady and the Tramp, and another princess's fairy godmother, Flora. Number 54. The concept of Cinderella's magical pumpkin carriage was introduced in Perrault's folk tale. Its original incarnation was used to represent the moon, witches, a charm against evil spirits, and, rather uncomfortably, feminine containment. Number 55. Eleanor Audley provided the voice of Lady Tremaine. She was also the thorn in another princess's side, so to speak, as the voice of Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty. Both characters also have a strong resemblance to Audley. Number 56. Another legendary Disney animator, Ward Kimball, was assigned Lady Tremaine's evil cat, Lucifer. Kimball looked everywhere for a cat to base Lucifer's design on. One day, Disney himself came over to Ward's house and was promptly and warmly greeted by Kimball's 6-toed cat, Feetsy. Disney exclaimed, "For gosh sakes, Kimball, there's your cat. What are you worried about?" Number 57. The voice of diabolical Lucifer was June Foray, better known for her sweet performances as Granny in the Tweety and Sylvester cartoons, Rocky and the Flying Squirrel and Natasha Fatale in the Bullwinkle cartoons, and Betty Rubble in the Flintstones, just to name a few. Number 58. Similar to Cinderella, Drusilla's hair color is ever-changing. When portrayed as a child, she has light brown hair, but as an adult, she has black hair. But, you know, some people just have darker hair as they get older. Number 59. The King and Grand Duke are inseparable in some surprising ways. They're voiced by the same person, actor Louis Van Rooten. Number 60. In a pretty winning Disney Easter egg, Goofy's holler can be heard when the King and the Grand Duke fall from the chandelier. Number 61. In another winning Disney Easter egg, the King and the Grand Duke appear so popular in the Disney universe they even got invited to Prince Eric and Ursula's wedding in The Little Mermaid. Number 62. If you study the King's study, you can see he enjoys reading Homer, Plato, and Rabelais. Unless you know he just keeps those books on his desk for appearances. Number 63. The opening of Cinderella is narrated by the mellow voice of Betty Lou Gerson, who was later cast again in a very different role. The world's best named villain, Cruella de Vil. Talk about dramatic vocal range. Number 64. We can make a very well-educated guess that Cinderella takes place sometime in the mid-ish 19th century because of the inclusion of gas lamps in the streets scene when Cinderella is on her way to the ball. Characters' clothing, such as the men's military-style uniform jackets, also back this theory. Number 65. An alternative storyboarded opening for the film includes Cinderella imitating Lady Tremaine, Drusilla, and Anastasia ordering her around. It also rhymes. Number 66. Cinderella work song was composed for the film, but cut. However, storyboards were made for its sequence, which would have been reminiscent to The Sorcerer's Apprentice and involved Cinderella imagining multiples of herself tackling her chores. Number 67. However, all was not lost. The song was later modified into simply the work song, which the mice sing as they work on Cinderella's dress. Number 68. Another scene that was later removed involved Cinderella eavesdropping on her stepmother and stepsisters as they gossiped about the mystery woman from the ball. Cinderella is entertained by their obliviousness and inability to recognize the woman was her. Disney cut the scene because he feared the scene made Cinderella seem spiteful to audiences. Number 69. An alternate ending entailed the Duke discovering Cinderella's identity and taking her to the prince dressed in her rags. But, in the words of Disney himself, the prince doesn't give a darn what she's in. The scene was scrapped because it robbed audiences of the emotional payoff inherent of the prince finding Cinderella for himself. Number 70. The fashion in Cinderella is a reflection of the shift in fashion after World War II as a parable of audiences' desires for a post-war transformation. Cinderella's work clothes, straight knee-length skirts, match the utility clothing scheme, Britain's restrictive wartime dress code. The addition of her headscarf is also another representation of women's fashion during World War II when materials for hats were in short supply. Number 71. Cinderella's new hairdo also mirrors a shift in trends. Pre-transformation Cinderella has a pin-curled 1940s hairstyle that her fairy godmother transforms into 1950s bangs with an elegant and glamorous updo. Number 72. The ball gown was inspired by designer Christian Dior's new look in 1947, which revived the hourglass figure. The new look consisted of soft, rounded shoulders, tight sleeves, cinched waistline, and wide skirts. Dior also named many of his designs after flowers, and Disney chose Cinderella's transformation to happen in a garden. Number 73. This mirroring of Dior was no small deal. Largely because of Dior, women's wartime Rosie the Riveter coveralls were suddenly transforming into these ultra-feminine hourglass gowns. Cinderella was essentially the embodiment of the new feminine ideal. Number 74. Disney's nod to Dior didn't escape the notice of Dior himself, who capitalized on the publicity and wasted absolutely no time in releasing the line of bridal wear called Cinderella Fantasies. Number 75. The pink gown the mice designed for Cinderella was inspired by designer Elsa Schiaparelli, whose signature style included large bows and the pink hue. Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters are also wearing Schiaparelli, and their destruction of Cinderella's dress can be seen as a reinforcement of Cinderella's outdated tastes. Number 76. Cinderella's torn pink gown is a reference to the Schiaparelli tear dress that she created with Salvador Dali in 1938. Both the tear dress and Cinderella's dress include pointed shards of fabric as well as light and dark shades of pink to accentuate texture. Dali and Disney had collaborated on the Destino project shortly before Cinderella, so Disney was almost certainly aware of the infamous dress. Number 77. The film's heavy emphasis on haute couture made a number of critics very grumpy. Indeed, Disney actually emphasized fashion and clothing more than previous versions of the story, which caused some to accuse the film turning a classic fairy tale into a bourgeois capitalist fantasy. Number 78. But the end result was undeniably beautiful and effective. The sequence when the fairy godmother transformed Cinderella's torn dress into a gigantic, beautiful ball gown is Walt Disney's favorite piece of animation, hands down. Number 79. When Cinderella and Prince Charming dance at the ball, their shadows do not match their movements, but we learned a while ago how intense the animation process was, so go easy on them, eh? Number 80. In other versions of Cinderella, she doesn't always wear a glass slipper. In the Grimm's version, the slippers are gold. There's also some debate that although Perrault certainly wrote de verre, or made of glass, at some point, certain translations shifted to de verre, which would be made of squirrel fur. Sounds a bit nutty to me. Number 81. Cinderella's shoe slips off 3 times in the film. Once while walking up the stairs to bring breakfast to her stepmother and stepsisters, once at the ball, and once at her wedding. Maybe she should start wearing boots or something, you know? Number 82. In the third installment of the Cinderella films, we learned that her shoe size is a women's 4.5. No wonder no one else fits in those slippers. Number 83. When Anastasia attempts to make the glass shoe fit and she kicks the footman's face into the piano plays a high-pitched note, but the keys being hit are the piano's lower register. And, for that matter, within a small all arrange. Number 84. Cinderella marked the launch of the Walt Disney Music Company, which allowed Disney to hire composers but retain the copyrights for the film's soundtrack, a standard practice today that was revolutionary at the time. Number 85. The timeless songs in Cinderella were composed by Al Hoffman and Jerry Livingston, in collaboration with lyricist Mac David. All three worked on Tin Pan Alley, which made them attractive choices to Disney. Number 86. Cinderella was by no means the trio's only Disney film. They also worked on Alice in Wonderland, which was released the following year. Number 87. Disney liked to bring his composers in early and keep them involved throughout the process. They were included in the director's first meeting on the project just after the storyboards were finished. Number 88. When recording the songs for Cinderella, Disney came up with the idea of using double-tracked vocals. This involved having Woods sing harmony with herself on a second and third vocal track for the song Sing Sweet Nightingale, something else that most artists do nowadays. Number 89. One song that didn't make the final cut of the film was Dancing on a Cloud, which obviously enough featured Cinderella and the prince dance in the clouds. The song was later replaced by So This Is Love, but the cloud sequence was eventually rewritten for the end of Sleeping Beauty. Number 90. Actually, the Dancing on the Clouds idea was first proposed for the unfinished 1933 Cinderella Silly Symphony, meaning that Disney Studios held on to the idea for over 25 years before it was finally used. Number 91. Disney Studio loves to stash hidden Mickeys in their films. When Cinderella sings Sweet Nightingale and scrubs the floors, bubbles float into the air and form Mickey Mouse ears if you look closely. Number 92. Perry Como and the Fontaine sisters helped make Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo popular in mainstream music before Cinderella was even released. The Fontaine sisters also appeared on Perry Como's variety show dressed as mice and previewed songs from the film along with Eileen Woods. Number 93. Disney's Cinderella opened on February 15th, 1950. As with many of their classic animated features, the studio held periodic re-releases in 1957, 65, 73, 81, and 1987, and 2013, helping to keep the story a treasure for every generation always. Number 94. The film cost less than $3 million to make. Disney producer-director Wooly Reitherman believes the film would have cost $8 million to make today. Number 95. With a budget that relatively small, the whole Cinderella story aspect of the production itself is no joke. Over the years, the film has earned back more than $85 million domestic and over $260 million worldwide. That's not adjusted for inflation. Number 96. Cinderella was nominated for 3 Academy Awards: Best Sound, Best Original Score, and Best Original Song for the famous Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, but didn't win. Still, the film stands as one of the most treasured titles in the Disney archives and was included in the American Film Institute's 10 Greatest Animated Films of All Time list. Number 97. Cinderella also left a very obvious legacy within the Disney company itself. Cinderella's castle now serves as the Disney logo at the beginning of their films, television productions, and music group projects. Number 98. The Cinderella's castle logo was a later development than you'd think. It was first used alongside the Black Cauldron in 1985. Number 99. At Disney World, there is a small fountain with a statue of Cinderella in Cinderella Castle. If you kneel to get a drink of water from the fountain and look up at the statue, the mural behind her creates the illusion of a crown sitting on Cinderella's head. Number 100. But, of course, that's not the Cinderella feature you're looking for in the Disney World, is it? Cinderella's castle in Disney World was modeled after the castle in the film, and when researching this fact, I learned that the castle in Disneyland is actually Sleeping Beauty's castle. Number 101. When the castle was being designed, Disney requested to have a suite built for his family inside. However, because of his death, the suite sat patiently until 2007, when one family was chosen at random every day within the park to stay at the Dream Suite. Number 102. On September 8th, 2015, the castle was renamed Elsa's Castle, and the castle facade was also remodeled. Frickin' Elsa! Number 103. Disney has released 2 direct-to-video sequels to the 1950s classic: Cinderella 2, Dreams Come True, released in 2002, and Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time, released in 2007. Number 104. Cinderella ventures outside her own realm. In fact, she makes a cameo appearance in Aladdin and the King of Thieves when Genie turns Jasmine into Cinderella. Number 105. In 1997, Disney embarked on the first live-action remake of Cinderella, a made-for-TV film that aired on the newly rejuvenated Wonderful World of Disney on ABC. The film starred Brandy as Cinderella and Whitney Houston as the fairy godmother, as well as Whoopi Goldberg and Jason Alexander. How is this movie not played all the time? Number 106. In 2015, Disney made a more high-budget theatrical stab at a live-action Cinderella. This time, Lily James took the titular role and was supposed by Helena Bonham Carter as the fairy godmother and Cate Blanchett as the evil stepmother. Number 107. Disney recently took an unexpected turn in their live-action remakes and have announced a live-action film that will be exclusively focused on Prince Charming. Thank you guys for watching 107 Facts You Should Know About Cinderella. Which moment from the movie is your favorite? Let us know in the comments. And if you like what you just saw, then check out some of these other 107 Fact videos by clicking the annotations or the links in the description. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so at JohnnyKisAOK, and be sure to subscribe to Channel Frederator so you don't miss out on any of our videos, because remember, Frederator loves you.